Hey guys, what's up? Welcome. It is TSP TV and it is a 2020 food crisis $20 top-up. Actually, it's a lot more than a $20 top-up. I just kind of was tidying that to maybe be a little bit catchy. But anyway, yeah, we did a video a couple of weeks ago that entitled 2020 Time to Prep Coming Food Crisis. Now, I'm not saying there is a food crisis coming, but many reports are suggesting that quite possibly there are going to be a food crisis, and depending where you are in the world and whether or not you have been affected by any kind of natural or man-made type of disasters. While I'm referring to, we've got a lot of fires out in California last year. We've got a lot of fires in Australia currently blazing at the moment, and there's been flooding and all sorts of things in the last 12 months that have caused a little bit of an impact to the agricultural industry that has been leaving many to suggest that there's going to be a coming food shortage. And also during the last summer, there were many pictures on social media news feeds of empty shelves at places like Walmart and Target, but mostly it seemed to be Walmart. And coincidentally, most of the products that seemed to be out of stock seemed to be Del Monte, so I'm not sure exactly what was going on there. Maybe there was some hidden stuff involved in those messaging, but there was a lot of similarities to be seen in these empty shelves in the grocery stores around North America. And in 2020, the video I put out the other day, 2020 Time to Prep, I suggested that, hey guys, somewhere that's usually always kind of pretty regularly stocked and relatively inexpensive is your local dollar store. And the local Dollarama, which is about a 10-15 minute streetcar ride away from me, only a handful of stops away, is where I have primarily done the majority of my prepping since I began this channel. And that's kind of what I built the basis and the foundations of this channel on, was my regular visits to the Dollarama. Pretty much every payday I'd go and do a $20 top-up and put a few items that are readily available at the dollar store to build a pantry. And on top of that, I would supplement it with occasional trips to the no-frills, which happens to be absolutely bang next door to the dollar store. It's kind of a one destination stop. Go to the no-frills. They often have some very, very good deals and inexpensive canned items as well as other prepping items if you go and look up and down the shelves. But primarily I go to the Dollarama. I don't know why, I just know what is on offer there and I have the prices in my mind. They never kind of change or differentiate, as opposed to no-frills, when sometimes 1 week a can of Spam can be $3.49 and then the next week it can be $2 because it's on special offer. I'm not saying you shouldn't take advantage of special offers where they are, because that's what I've done today. But dollar store prepping is something that I recommend to a lot of people. Often, unlike sort of larger stores like Walmart or Target, or here Canadian Tire or Canadian Superstore that you have up here north of the border, they can be a little bit overwhelming, a little daunting for some people, and you can sometimes get a little bit lost up and down the aisles and maybe get a little bit distracted what you went in there in the first place, because they have so much on variety. And for me, I kind of get a little bit of anxiety and don't really kind of like being in big crowded places like Walmart, especially during the hustle bustle times of year, that it might be a little bit more overcrowded than normal. But the Dollarama or dollar stores don't tend to have the same kind of traffic or velocity of customers as these larger stores. And as I said, they're a little bit more simple and friendly, a little bit more simpler and a little bit more friendlier to get around, is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to navigate football field size department stores. They're usually kind of pretty small and compact, and they actually provide a lot more of your everyday requirements than you probably think. You can get stuff like toiletries there, sanitation, you can get cleaning products, you can get things like towels, rugs. They even have pillows. They have cutlery, knives, forks, plates like that. Anything you could possibly really need can be found at your dollar store, including food items. And as I've already mentioned in this episode, I put together, my entire pantry pretty much from, well, I'd say probably a good 60 to maybe 70% of my pantry was put together from items at the dollar store. And with 2020 being reportedly that we should be seeing either a food crisis or an increase of food at the checkouts, then maybe now is the time to go visit your local dollar store and stock up while you can, which is what I've been doing for the last year, and managed to put, I'd roughly estimate, I'd say possibly up to 6 months worth of food if I had to really stretch it out for any length of time. And again, this is like 6 months worth of food, maybe not eating breakfast, lunch and dinner and getting our sort of proper calorie requirement for the day. We may only be eating one meal a day, but we're going to be trying to get as much nutrients into our system as we can in that one meal, which is why I've kind of, how my pantry is built around kind of being able to supplement myself with one nutritional meal. We got some sort of empty calories along with some very nutritional items, such as the mixed beans that I have, potato, the boiled canned potatoes, things like this. Not to mention we've got a bunch of instant mashed potato powdered flakes, so maybe giving a little away of what we picked up this week. But as I said, most of my items are very kind of no fuss, very simple. It's just a case of either having to open a can or add a very small amount of water, and many of the items that I do have actually require almost no heating whatsoever. And the reason for this is because, if you were in a doomsday apocalyptic type shit hitting the fan situation where, the grid is down, who knows where it is going to be coming from, who knows where your next fresh water is coming from, who knows, if or not it's ever going to come back up. Things like rice and things like dried beans are going to require an awful lot of water, not to mention an awful lot of fuel in order to heat that water up to boiling. And not to mention that things like beans and rice, depending on what kind of style of rice you buy, actually also have to be rinsed and cleaned and washed before you can safely eat them. You can, there is a risk and potential that you can get sick if you don't rinse and clean your beans. Again, this is more water that you are required in order to prepare these items. So I'm not saying that rice and beans are something you should possibly take out of your pantry and stay away for. If you have the way and means to cook them and the ways and means to clean them and all the other implements and requirements you need to cook these items, then they by sure are fine, absolutely sensible. But if you're someone like myself who happens to be, in a room rent or in a basement, and living within, a small living conditions, stacking, 20-pound bags of rice in beans and stuff like this, you're going to need a little bit of room. So that's why I kind of condensed and come back to my pantry into what I call micro prepping, where I've used just a couple of plastic drawer systems and some storage containers to keep my items. And you should have seen it many times by now if you have watched my video. But anyway, over 900 people watched so far. Maybe it's even going to be to 1,000 views before we know, and it's currently, due to the fact I did delete a whole bunch of my content a little while ago, it's now actually currently my most viewed video. But nearly 1,000 people have watched that 2020 time to prep, so maybe this is something that is interest of you, and maybe those of you who may have watched that video haven't watched any of my other videos. Maybe this is all brand new to you, dollar store prepping, and how you can put together pantries in a small place on a low income like I have. And as I said, I have quite a substantial amount of food that doesn't really require any cooking whatsoever, and I have quite a variety of food varieties. I've got lots of different, so I'm not getting food fatigues. I've got carbs, I've got vitamins, I've got some veggies, I've got meats. I've got it. I can provide myself with somewhat of a balanced and varied diet in an emergency situation, which is more likely to be, term of sickness, out of work, unemployment, something like that. But anyway, back to what I got today. Let me give you a little look. So those are the bags that we're going to be bagging very shortly. I had to take the little buggy today. And those of you who haven't seen it, here it is. This is the micro pantry. This is what I'm talking about. You know, there's my bed, there's where I sleep, there's my fan, there's a little mirror there, a couple of souvenir scarves on the wall from soccer. But this here is my little micro pantry. Sorry, it's not very illuminated. You know, I've got in the box on the top there's a whole bunch of my international MREs for future review videos. But if there was an emergency, they are an emergency food source. We've got a couple of boxes of MREs down there. We've got 5 cases of vendor cases of ramen noodles. These containers here all have different things in them. I've got a bunch of ramen in there that I've repackaged and downsized. I've got crackers, I've got oatmeal, I've got powdered milk, I've got tea, I've got some coffees, I've got some Kool-Aid, as you can possibly see there. I've got things like beef jerky, pepperoni salami sticks, I've got some cookies, I've got some cakes, things like Twinkies, I've got peanuts, cracker bars, granola bars, as well as the basis of the pantry, which is all my canned items, which are just open a can and go. And you know, I've got some chunky soups, I've got mostly beans and boyardee type stuff that provide moldy nutrients from one can. In you know, we talk about having the less zeros on the cans in more numbers as possible as emergency food, because then you're going to get moldy nutritional value from your items as opposed to empty calories. So what are we going to open first here? All right, so we're going to go to the Dollarama. I've got some staples to the to my pantry anyway, to say the least, and some staples that should be in your pantry, and maybe a very good item to stock up on if you haven't already. And out of these, I actually already mentioned them, the Betty Crocker mashed potatoes. Now I picked up 5 boxes of these. These are $2 a piece at the dollar store, or at the Dollarama rather, and they contain 2 pouches. So here I have 10 pouches of instant mashed potatoes. Now the serving suggestion says that there are 2 servings per pouch, so this 5 now becomes 20 servings of mashed potatoes for $10. Now you don't have to use them as mashed potatoes. You can actually use these as a soup base. By that you kind of would make them exactly the same as you would with your mashed potatoes, but maybe add a little bit more liquid. Now, for example, if you had a can of mixed vegetables in salted water, then you could use that as your soup base and put a few spoonfuls of this, maybe 2, 3, 4 spoonfuls in, mix it in to thicken up the water in there and make you a little bit of a hearty meat, a vegetable and potato type of stew. Again, it's not going to be winning any awards, but it's something that is going to fill it up. And again, you know, if you've got a ramen, what does a ramen cost? 20 cents. Throw a couple of spoonfuls into this with the broth, and that is going to add a little bit more nutrition. Now, it does say on here you get the 2 you know, on this side, the higher numbers, this is if you serve it with butter and milk, and this is its nutritional value if you serve it just with just on its own. Now, you know, if you've got powdered milk in your pantry, then you can add some powdered milk into this. Maybe if you've got some cheese whiz, I've got a jar of cheese whiz in there, you can maybe add a spoonful of your cheese whiz into this to substitute the butter to add a little bit more flavor. So it's not just mashed potato. We can use it for soups, we can use it for thickeners, we can even mix this in with pancake batter to make kind of like potato pancakes, which again will be that much more nutritional to you than just regular pancakes. And as I said, probably more than likely will be using this for thickening up soups and stews more than mashed potato. But again, maybe a nice hearty portion of mashed potato is very filling and something that you can utilize from this, making it kind of a multiple use item. If you see what I'm saying, you don't just have to use the mashed potatoes. So I will be downsizing those at in the future. So what are we looking at? So per serving is 100 calories. So each box has 400 calories. So there's what, 2,000 or so calories there, unless I'm doing the math completely wrong. The other thing I picked up at the dollar store also, and they only actually had 3 boxes of these, otherwise I'd have picked some more. And I've actually never seen these at the dollar store. These look to be a new item, and they're like Reese's Puff granola bars, and they got peanut butter and cocoa, made with real Reese's peanut butter. And I've got a bunch of like the Nature Valley bars in there already, so this is pretty much similar. And again, you know, we've got some good calcium there, we've got some iron, we've got some protein, we've got some sugars, we've got some fiber, we've got some carbs, we've got a little bit of sodium, we've got some fat, and we've got some calories. So each one of these boxes for $2 contains 500 calories. So we've got 1,500 calories there. So that's cost me $16 so far. And you know, that's not really looking like anything exciting. And as I said, I do have quite a stock base of canned items, which is the, you know, the foundation, the brunt of my pantry. Some of these things are like supplementary, like, you know, and I often do kind of snack on these on a daily basis. And these things I do rotate a little bit, as it is partly a working pantry. Now, something I did tease in a live feed that is, some of you may have caught the other day, was candy bars. I said, you know what, it doesn't hurt to have a few candy bars in your pantry. Now, I bought 4 packets of Mars, 4 packets of Coffee Crisps, 4 Snickers, and 4 Twix. So there's 16 bars of chocolate there, and these were $3 for 4 bars. It works out at 75 cents a bar. And again, you know, candy bars, pretty high in calories, 250 calories for a bar. They also contain a lot of fat. You get some sodium, some carbs, some fiber, some sugar, some protein, and some calcium from the milk chocolate, as well as some iron. And, you know, as they say, when you're feeling hungry, have a Snickers. You're not yourself. So, you know, maybe a little treat. And again, sort of things that you could have as a dessert, or probably things that I will end up snacking on, you know, when I come home from work in the evenings. But there you go, 250 calories per bar. So for $3, there's 1,000 calories. Just an example. Now, that's what have I got? They were $3. That's 3, 6, 12. This was about $30. For this kind of top up here. And I did get a couple of other items that are going to be used for something different, but something you might want to pick up are hand sanitizers. And now these were $3 each. As you can see, there's the price of $3 each. And again, not only are these hand sanitizers, we can also use this as fire lighting purposes. You know, again, you can kind of use this as a, put a bunch in your hand, and if you didn't have water, you could kind of give yourself a little bit of a rough body wash. But what I'm probably going to be using these for, although it says moisturizing and hydrating, is we're going to make a Mark II of my coffee pot hand sanitizer space heater. So unfortunately, didn't have the big, when I did make that, they had the kind of big, they were like a liter size pump action hand sanitizers, so we used a couple of those. But as I said, these are a multi-purpose item. You can, you know, you also use these to clean your dishes. You can pour a little bit in there and kind of wipe them around your pots and pans if you need to, although they probably won't be that clean. But you can sanitize not only your hands but other things with these, as well as using them for fire lighters. Now, I did get one other little thing at the dollar store as a bonus item that I thought was really cool. Was this. I don't know if you can see it. It cost $4. It's a little outdoors moldy tool. So it kind of looks a little bit like a Swiss Army knife, but he tried to make it look a little bit cool and like kind of a bit more tactical. And there it is. Let's get it out. Let's see how good it is. I was probably going to get a couple of these actually, maybe give one away as a giveaway, but I had kind of spent a little more than because I didn't just spend this, I did get some other stuff at the dollar store as well. But this is what you get. You get a little saw there, you get a little knife, you got a bottle opener. I think this might be a little pair of scissors or something. maybe a nail file. No, that's little scissors. Again, there's a bottle opener. We've got a little screwdriver. Another screwdriver there. Bottle opener, as we've already mentioned. So there's 10 items there for $4. Does that close? Yes, it does. So I'm not sure how useful or how reliable it would be, but for $4, that's a pretty good little item to throw in the bug out bag, the Dollarama bug out bag. I can maybe hang that on something on the outside. Maybe it will come in useful. As I said, I have also not only built just a pantry from the Dollarama, although not everything is from the Dollarama, as I have mentioned multiple times in this video already, but I've also put together a bug out bag entirely from items that I purchased at the Dollarama. So this will be going towards that. So that was what I picked up at my on the dollar store in terms of pantry items. I do got another bag, but that's going to be for another video altogether. So we've got our candy bars, we've got our Betty Crockers, and I will be downsizing these at some point in the future because they do take a lot of room up like this. Let's just get those out the way. So as I did mention, No Frills is also next door. Let's get the hand sanitizer out the way as well. So the No Frills is next door to the let's just lay that there for a second. Oh, Smurfy's fell over. But anyway, yeah, No Frills is next door to the Dollarama. Sorry about that, I was getting distracted with the mascot corner. So I did have a little pop in there today and was kind of hoping that it would have been a little better than it was. Not many things of use to me that were on offer, although there was something that I did pick up that is useful to me. It's something I do use quite regularly, and possibly isn't necessarily going to be a pantry filler, but will be something that will be used over the days and weeks to come, is coffee. So they had this espresso rosso coffee grinds. So there's 250 grams in each packet, and this was $1.97. So I picked up 5 of these. That was $10 for coffee. Coffee is something I always drink, and this is actually a pretty good good coffee. And although it is espresso, I actually put it in my kind of regular drip pot kind of coffee machine, very similar to Mr. Coffee, but something I found treasure hunting one day out on the street. Someone left out a brand new coffee machine, which is now my coffee machine, but I still use this just the same as, you know, I don't use it in the espresso machine. I just use it as my regular go-to everyday coffee, and it's actually very delicious. So $10 for 250 grams of pretty good brand coffee, not the known brand or the cheap no frilly kind of not so good coffee. This is pretty decent. So that was $10, and then for $6, no, sorry, for $4, I picked up some oatmeal. Now again, possibly not necessarily for the pantry, although it will go in the pantry for now, but this might be stuff again that I might eat of an evening when I come home from work, especially now we are expecting some very cold weather to hit this coming weekend in Toronto. Certainly, you know, when I come home from work and had to walk from the bus stop to my front door, which isn't that far, but believe you me, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes if it is icy and slippery and it's -20, -30 outside, and that shit will fucking rip you to pieces. So coming in and having maybe a nice hot bowl of oatmeal is going to be a little, you know, warming as well as nutritious, and some of these do have some very good amounts of numbers, and this is what we're talking about, more numbers than zeros. So again, that's if you serve it. You can actually, you know, supplement this even further by using maybe like the fortified almond beverage. Like, I'm not going to call it almond milk, you know what I mean, but you can get that. It's also got a whole bunch of vitamins and nutrients added to it, and you mix that with your oatmeal, and then that kind of becomes like, it gives you like your multivitamins, all your kind of nutrients and stuff in one sort of foul swoop. So you know, there's 20 pouches of oatmeal there, so you know, one a day, that could almost be breakfast for 3 weeks for $4. But to be honest, for pantry purposes, I'd buy the minute oats in the big bag and get a kilogram for about $250 Canadian dollars, which I actually do have a couple of larger bags of that in the pantry. And kind of why I bought these is because it's a smaller portion rather than opening up one whole big jumbo bag for a single serve. I can just use these, and they've got a little bit of different flavor, powdered milk and stuff in them as well. So that was that. And guys, the last but not least, Twinkies. Gotta be having some Twinkies. As a child growing up in the UK reading Marvel comics, I thought the Twinkies must be the most magical thing in the world, judging by those old 1970s and 80s hand-drawn advertisements for Hostess Twinkies that were often in the back of Marvel comics, you know, with Captain America, Spider-Man, or the Hulk saving the day by giving villains Twinkies. But they were $3 for 8, and I've already got some Twinkies in my pantry as it is. So a cake gives you 150 calories, gives you a little bit of iron, calcium, sugars, and carbs, and some cholesterol. You actually do need a little bit of cholesterol in your blood system to help build white blood cells. So, you know, got to keep it within moderation. But Twinkies, they also are supposed to be able to survive nuclear Armageddon. Twinkies and cockroaches will be all that's left. It was often joked about. So, you know, if it is a hit in the fan situation, then maybe the Twinkies will survive and keep me alive. So that is it. As I said, I do have another couple of bags to unwrap, but they are not necessarily for this. Let's put the Twinkies in prime sight there for you. There's a little bit of kind of pretty packaging, I guess, to watch. So I do got another couple of bags to open, but they're going to be for another video and another purpose. What I was really kind of doing here was showing you a little bit about how you can just do regular top-ups in sometimes, you know, getting a few different items that are on offer as opposed to the regular items that you kind of buy more regularly. Helps, you know, give you a variety of food so you don't get food fatigue, and, you know, provides you calories and a little bit of your nutrients in different ways. By no means am I saying that Twinkies are a healthy option, but they do have a few numbers on the nutritional value that in an emergency will be very, very welcome. I'm not suggesting at all that you go out and start living on a diet of Cafe Rosso and Twinkies. That probably wouldn't be very healthy, but I would like to try it maybe for a week, see if I can live on Twinkies and Espresso Rosso. But if you want to do that, you might have to start offering to sponsor that as a kind of fundraising event to help improve the thrift store studio or something. Yeah, let me know if you want to see a survival challenge, a week of living on Twinkies and coffee. Although I'd rather spend a week living in my basement, living on Twinkies and Cafe Rosso Espresso than going and working in the kitchen, which is my regular job, cooking dinners for people I don't know. Although I do know some of them, we do have regulars, but you know what I'm getting. Service industry, it's a bit of a soulless industry there. So, as I said, not really exciting items, but they are items that I do use each and every day. They are items that at the moment are inexpensive and on offer at my local grocery store. And while food is available and affordable, why not stock up? As I said, we don't know what 2020 has in store for us, or as in hold. I don't know what I was trying to say there, but we don't know what 2020 has in store for us, and we don't know what will happen at the grocery stores and the checkout in terms of food prices or availability in things that you know maybe you do use regularly, like myself. Coffee is something I'm always going to be using for the foreseeable future. It doesn't hurt to kind of stockpile while it's cheaper. Save now, drink it later kind of thing. And same kind of goes with your food insurance. If you can put savings into your pantry, you can use those savings for either further additions to your pantry or for other purposes that might be more important than pantry building. But pantry building is something that almost anybody can do. I'm not saying everybody can do it. There are people with disabilities or ways and means that they physically can't get out and go to their store that prevents them. But the majority of us, it's not beyond us. It doesn't have to be a daunting, overwhelming task. You literally can go to your local dollar store, and with $20 you could probably put together at least a week's worth of food for one person. Very, very crude and simple meals, but you will be able to feed yourself for at least a week for $20 at the dollar store. And if you continue to do that week after week after week, you will soon be able to have a little pantry of your own that will be able to sustain you for quite some amount of time, depending on how much or how big you want to build your pantry. For me, the kind of 6-month figure is around about good enough for me. Goodness gracious, I hope we're not going to be in any situation where we're not going to be able to find food and go to the store for 6 months. But if that ever happens, then I do got 6 months worth of food on hand, and beyond that, God knows what we're going to do. But more importantly, if I do find myself out of work, or I have some illness or something happens to me, maybe a car hits me or something, I don't know, and I find myself unable to work, then I don't got to worry about feeding myself. At least I've got food in the pantry that I can fall back on and won't require me to have to go out and find extra dollars in order to feed myself, as well as pay other bills like keeping a roof on my head, or maybe getting to and from work, or keeping my phone light on so I can communicate with folks and such forth. So food insurance, it's not a stupid thing to have. Don't let people kind of look at you as though you're a tinfoil hat wearing wacko for having a little bit of food insurance, because everybody's got to eat, just like everyone's got to poop. And we don't know if or not food prices are going to go up. We don't know how much food is going to be available, and quite possibly a lot of these early reports in the year are just making people like myself go out and stockpile a little bit now, and probably start spending a little bit more after Christmas than they normally would, because usually the holiday periods is when people buy gifts, maybe extravagant menu items, and put a few more luxuries in the cupboard for the holidays and for entertaining families and for treats and such forth. And usually in the early part of January, a lot of people are paying off credit card bills or paying for those holidays and gifts and such forth that they splashed out on. And maybe that's a little bit of a psychological operation to get us to go out and consume by telling us, oh my god, there's a coming food shortage, buy now, save later. But it doesn't really matter, because as I've already mentioned, we all have to eat. Food is something that not necessarily gonna go to waste. And if you are putting together food insurance or an emergency pantry for a rainy day, whatever that rainy day may be bringing, then don't be spending more than you have to. Don't be complicated on items that may not come to serve you well in the time, if it ever comes, that you have to need it. I've seen quite a few preppers that have said, oh my god, we were without power for 3 days and I got my Sterno stoves out and tried to boil some rice and it just didn't get the water hot enough. So make sure what you're prepping on is going to be able to serve you when the time comes, as well as possible. And that's why I try to keep things as simple as possible, that don't require much cooking, that don't require much water, and literally can be eaten out of their package if need be. So that's it, folks. 2020, is it time to prep? You be the decider of that, and you decide if or not you want to go out and start prepping, and decide what you want to be putting in your pantries if you do. But if you do want a few hints and tips, follow some of my advices and purchases by watching my Build Up Micro Pantry playlist. You can see how I put this all together week by week, starting from absolutely nothing to what you see before you now. So thanks guys for watching. Good luck with your preps if that's what you're doing. Be sure to go out and check your local dollar store. You never know what you may find there. And be sure to take on the TSP $20 challenge. Take $20, go to your local grocery store and see what you can get, or dollar store, and see what you can get for $20 in terms of putting your of items to put in your pantry. Thanks for watching, everybody. You should know by now it is a shit video production for TSP TV. See you in the next one. Till then, keep it thrifty.